Everything is Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelin Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. 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 That was awesome.
You guys are awesome.
No, you're awesome.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this week's edition of Everything is Awesome. I am your host, Kev, and this is a show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. This week's guest is going to be, I think, a real fun guest. We have, when they messaged me about being on the show, I took a look at what he did, and the first thing I, of course, noticed was, oh, this guy does what the Green Arrow does. And of course I closed the tab out, but he is designs custom Ninja Warrior, gym stuff, something that I've never seen, I've never done in real life because, well, I am way not in shape to do it. He designs custom things for the gym that will tell us, I'm sure, officially what that is. He's also, in our conversations, found out he is a big old geek as well. Please welcome to the show from, I closed the tab. I think I got it right. Custom Desgin Crafts. Brian, I'm not going to even pronounce your last name. You told me, and I know I'm going to get it wrong. But Brian.
Yes, my last name is pronounced Troche. I am from Custom Desgin Crafts, and what I do is basically build custom style Ninja Warrior equipment for CrossFit gyms and obstacle course race people. I've been doing this for the better part of the last year and a half, and it's been a trip, to say the least. It's
funny because the first thing I saw and I do very little research, as I think you and I have discussed, and as my listeners know, that's something that I think most interviewers do not tout and are not proud of. However, I take it and I own it. But I did want to check out the site just because, like, my experience with the term Ninja Warrior is either like just the commercials for American Ninja Warrior or whatever that show is, and like different classes in like RPGs from Final Fantasy to Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. So clearly, like, my mind, like, I've gone to a gym, but I've never done anything that's like considered beyond the treadmill, basically. But like, when I went to your site, I noticed the salmon ladders, and I was like, oh my god, I think that's pretty sure that's what the Green Arrow does on Arrow.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I went down like a little rabbit hole of your site, like to check that out, because that's, obviously like one of the. Do you watch Arrow?
I have watched every season that there is.
Okay.
It started out awesome, but it kind of tanked in the last few seasons.
Okay, well, let's before we get into the real interview, let's talk a little bit about the Berlantiverse, because we love the Berlantiverse here on Everything is Awesome. Do you watch more than just Arrow? Do you watch the whole Berlanti guys? I have
definitely. Me and my wife have watched Flash religiously, and that is possibly the best superhero show on regular TV aside from Netflix.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't gotten into Iron Fist yet. We still have that on our radar. But, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually, even though I will agree that most of the Netflix stuff, I haven't gotten into Iron Fist yet either, which I think is a sign, because has nothing to do with the reviews that I've read or anything online, which is really not, I mean, when I say read reviews, like, before it released, there was all the rumors that, these critics watched the first 6 episodes and they don't like it. It's the first Marvel flop.
Yeah, and I was listening to the Kevin Smith podcast because I listened to him for all of my good movie reviews. I'm getting into something good, and they just shot the hell out of it, and I still want to watch it because all the other stuff has been awesome.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit down and watch it, but it is the first Marvel Netflix program that I haven't gone to and watched right away. Most of I think every other one I watched within like the first 7 days of it dropping, and I don't know what it is. It's just it's a character that I guess that like, not that I was super interested in the other characters. I don't know. There's just something about this that maybe I just wasn't paying attention to all the marketing for this one. But it's something that I'll go to and watch. But I will agree that like Flash, hands down, is I think the best thing on network television. I think Supergirl is a very close second. Mm-hmm. If I don't know, do you watch Supergirl and Legends as well?
Not so much Legends, but my wife and I have definitely watched Supergirl, and there's a few geek out moments like when they had Dean Cain as the dad, and he's from Lewis and Clark, and that was my Superman for a while.
Yeah, totally. I would still say he's my Superman. Like Dean Cain as Superman. I think Tom Welling did a pretty good job for what that show was, Smallville.
Right.
But like I wasn't really on board with Brandon Routh as Superman. I don't think he did a bad job. I just think it was like not a great script.
Right.
And same thing kind of with Henry Cavill. Like I don't think it's him that's the issue necessarily. I think it's just the material he has to work with.
Right.
So like Dean Cain, I would say maybe Tim Daly, who voiced the animated Superman for so long.
Yep.
He might be like him, and Dean Cain are probably like the two that I would like quote unquote call my Superman.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you love the Flash, I think Supergirl has a very similar formula to the show. It has like the same tone, whereas Arrow is a lot darker. Mm-hmm. Legends, is its kind of own thing. It's hard to call what that is. What'd you say?
I said Legends is a bit too hooky for me. I mean, you got all these like B level characters that are just doing whatever.
I still enjoy it. I still like just. I'm a huge fan of the universe building, and I think it's one of the things that makes me dislike and I say dislike, I haven't really watched much in the DC movie universe, but the thing that I don't really like about the DC movie universe is they haven't embraced the TV side of it as being part of the greater story.
Absolutely.
Like Marvel has, and they don't, like, Marvel does it, but like in such a nondescript way. Like they're still pretty low key about it.
Right, like even in what was it? What was that one? The one with Luke Cage, where like they have we've got a bunch of Hammerman technology in the background.
Yeah.
Oh, we got bootleg copies of The Incident and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff is awesome.
Yeah, that, and like usually the movies will influence the TV shows for Marvel more than the other way around, which makes sense because it's hard for a TV show that is several for networks like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And even Netflix, which is technically one day that it releases. But like it's hard for that takes place over this, the length of a couple months to influence a movie that has probably started filming a year before the season aired.
Right.
So it makes sense that the show is influenced by the movies more so than the other way around. But at least it's still like loosely all connected. And that's like, and I think just like the DC TV stuff is just crushing it so well. I enjoy Legends. I would say it's definitely like, if I have to rank the Berlantiverse, it's number 4 on my list for sure.
Right.
But Yeah, I think for a while, I think Arrow was up there. Honestly, until Flash came along, I think that Arrow, where Arrow succeeded in the beginning of being so serious and so dark, it kind of almost turned into its downfall. But when they tried in season 4 to kind of go a different direction, it didn't work at all. And season 5, which we're in now, I think it's better. It's better than season 4, than last season. I think it's a return to what Arrow should be.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Yeah, for a while there, it seemed like, it was kind of like the same story over and over. Oliver is just, kind of a whiny crybaby and fights criminals.
Yeah. It's it's, I don't know. I enjoy it all. It's hard to hate any of that, because it's just, I think it's like, even the worst of Arrow, I think, is still better than having no Arrow on television.
Absolutely.
And this is something that we've discussed on, I don't know if it was on our special that we did for the Invasion crossovers, or if it was on another podcast I guested on, but we were talking about the Berlantiverse and how genius it is, in the sense that, like, I think Arrow, I mean, obviously Arrow's coming back for season 6. I think they're bringing in a 5th show. I think what is it, Black Lightning or something, is coming to the CW shows. So like they just keep adding to this Berlantiverse, and like in 10 years, let's say, in theory, Arrow could be canceled, but Stephen Amell still could be appearing on an episode or 2 a year of another Berlantiverse show as the Green Arrow, and it would be no big deal.
Yeah, because we don't really need to keep going back and rehashing, adventures of Oliver Queen.
Yeah, and I think that's, whereas, as much as I want more and more and more, like, if you're getting to a point where, like, it's getting a little stale and whatnot, and it's, go out on top, like, plan an epic final season. And Stephen Amell, just, from seeing him, interact on Twitter and just with his fans and whatnot out in public, he seems like the type of dude that, like, really enjoys the gig and really enjoys doing what he's doing.
Absolutely.
I think he'd be more than willing to come back for little arcs here and there, in a future where Arrow is no longer part of the Berlantiverse, but there is still this CW DC television universe.
Right. I want to send that dude one of my salmon ladders.
Yeah, so that's so what does like your, I guess, where did that come from, the wanting to get into custom designing this, like, CrossFit Ninja Warrior gym stuff?
Well, basically, it started a few years ago. I was, my kids were really small and stuff, and we had seen a few episodes of American Ninja Warrior on TV, and, my kids were like, "Oh man, that's so awesome." And I was sitting, 240 pounds with, a back injury, and I started thinking to myself, I want to get into some more shape. So I, am taking my kids to the park, and I'm running around with them and stuff, and I'm just feeling like a complete hot mess, all the time, because I'm so overweight.
Yeah.
So basically I decided to, make a change and do something about that. And I started going to the gym, and while I was, doing that, I was previously in the military, so I'm a veteran also. And, I know how to lift and, what to do and what I should be researching, and because I do all my own research. And when I was going to the gym, I was realizing that, in order to properly, like, lift some of the weights and exercise my different muscle groups, I needed to do a certain weight, but my grip strength wasn't really there. Trying to pick up a 50-pound dumbbell to, do some stuff, I couldn't hold it for like more than 30 seconds at a time. So basically what I did then is I started doing some research on how to increase my grip strength, and I found out that there really wasn't anything aside from attaching a small weight to a rope and a stick and rolling it up and down and doing some other silly exercises. And I came up with my very first invention, which was called a Tenasi. Basically what that is just a device used to increase your grip strength, and it kind of spiraled completely up and out of control from there. I started using this device, and I had a whole bunch of people telling me, oh, you should put a patent on it and sell it. So I said, hey, why not? So that's where it all started. I started trying to peddle that around to different gyms and seeing if there's even a market for it, and well, there is. There's a whole community of fitness people who are into just grip strength, and it kind of started from there. And as I kind of grew in my abilities and dropping my weight, I started thinking obstacles are more fun, and I want to do more than just go to some Globo gym. And I started looking at CrossFit, and around that time I started getting into watching like Arrow, and I was like, man, I wish I could do that. And I see that people build their own stuff on Facebook all the time, and I started thinking, well, I could do that too. So then I was able to design my very first salmon ladder, and that took a few months to do. And once I got it right, I put it up on my website, and it all went from there. And go ahead.
So, so when you design, like, let's say the salmon ladder, and you said it took you a couple months to get there, like, does that involve you like, all right, here's prototype A, let me do the salmon ladder like Stephen Amell does every week on Arrow, and then just kind of like how do you know that it doesn't work? Like, you fall a lot, or
I have fallen a lot, and once you fall, it's about how you get back up.
Yeah.
But I'm an engineer by day, so
okay.
I have access to a gang of CNC equipment and machines and design software. So whenever I get like a crazy idea in my head, I just put it to paper, and I go and I make it, and if it works, then it works. If it doesn't, then I try again. There was a design process. I had to basically get in touch with the ninja community, because there's a huge community of Ninja Warrior people out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met with a lot of them, and I'm friends with some of them. Just recently, a buddy of mine who owns a company who builds gigantic Ninja Warrior obstacles courses, he let me come with him to the Arnold Sports Festival in Columbus, and we were in the main room of that event, which is one of the largest fitness events in the country, and we had the only Ninja Warrior obstacle course, and I had helped him build some of that stuff that he had out there, so he let me come down, and I got in contact with the ninja community and had gotten some of them to come out and run the course for us. So that was a pretty big moment for my company.
That's pretty cool, and I think what's even cooler is the term ninja community, because it's like totally two different definitions of, and I guess that's kind of a recent thing of this whole new definition, because I mean, American Ninja Warrior has been around. I don't know. You can tell me how long it's been around, because I don't watch it. So it's been around for how long?
Years.
Yeah, so it's, let's say 10 years ago, I would say ninja community you would clearly just think about like
people in hoods sneaking around.
Yeah,
yep.
Exactly. But it is. I did end up a couple of weeks ago watching like maybe about 20 minutes of like a rerun episode, and it is. And I've actually watched either like YouTube videos of, not necessarily like of American Ninja Warrior, but I think of, I guess, like ninja warrior gyms where they have the obstacle courses and whatnot.
Yep.
And
there's a lot of them popping up around.
yeah, and it looks so fascinating. Certainly something that if I was younger, I would maybe even attempt. But
it doesn't really matter because I know a guy who just recently opened up a ninja gym here in Indianapolis, and he's not a young chicken. He's like somewhere between like 40, 50 range, and
okay,
there's a lot of guys who are 40 plus and they're doing CrossFit, they're doing obstacle course races, and they're doing all this stuff, and it's not too late to start.
the idea of I think it's from like I used to be really into wrestling, like WWE style wrestling, to the point where I used to do it. Started off in the backyard. We were actually just discussing this the other day, a buddy of mine with someone with a mutual acquaintance, and we we're rehashing how we started on a tarp in the backyard. So literally like suplexing each other onto the hard ground, the hard cold ground. So like I think from years of that, then eventually going into the ring and eventually getting properly trained, and then like eventually breaking my ankle that had nothing to do with wrestling, broke it in another fashion. Like I think the idea of doing anything like watching that the ninja obstacle courses is like, my God, my body hurts just watching this. I can't imagine doing it. And that's also like the motivation honestly isn't there. Like I would love to get in shape, but I don't need to get in shape enough to do all that crazy. It looks a lot of fun.
And it is.
You just need to be in that mindset, I think.
Right. Yeah, and I go to a CrossFit gym to do all my stuff, and I try my best to stay with it, but I got a regular 9 to 5 plus my side business, plus I'm a dad and stuff, and it's not easy.
Yeah, it's when you're juggling so many different things, it's hard to keep on, keep everything up and going at one time. So your equipment, how it is, from what I gathered, it looks like it's not standalone, right? Like this isn't like for someone who wants to open up a Ninja Warrior gym or whatever to have just fresh equipment. It's something for like to adapt an existing piece of equipment, correct?
Right. That was the first idea, and that's how I kind of ran with it the first like maybe 9 months, and then I got hooked up with a place that actually makes the hardware, the big racks and all that other stuff. So now I can offer all of that stuff all into one big package.
Oh, neat. So now if
open up a ninja gym or something, they could contact me and be like, hey, listen, I need all this equipment and stuff, and I will be able to hook them up with basically everything that they need. And just recently I've been in talks with a bunch of different OCR companies, obstacle course companies, that like put on the big outdoor events, like the Spartan race. And
yeah.
Even the Spartan race, they sponsor my website, and I'm sure you've seen the ads on there. But yeah, so I'm definitely getting more into doing that type of scenario as opposed to just going into any old CrossFit gym and be like, hey, you guys want to be ninjas? Because that doesn't always work that well.
Yeah, well, because I guess, and again, this is someone whose gym experience consists of like Planet Fitness and LA Fitness and stuff like that. But I would imagine like going into a CrossFit gym, not necessarily as like a customer, my mind isn't necessarily going to. I also am going to do Ninja Warrior stuff. They seem like two completely different things, right?
On the outside it does, but the definition of CrossFit is that it's always changing.
Oh, okay.
But one of the downfalls is that people get hung up on the same old movements, like, but from a business standpoint, it makes sense because, you don't want to have to keep buying new equipment every year because, you got to pay your bills.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot that you can do with a barbell and a pull-up bar and, a couple of kettlebells, and that's what they do. And there are a lot of gyms out there who are seeking for new stuff to do, and that's where I come in to help, facilitate that need.
Well, and it's because it seems like, in the last, I'll say like 5 years or so, at least, I'm in the suburbs of Philly. It seems like more and more gyms are popping up. Like, when I first joined a gym, I don't know, we'll say probably about 12 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. It was my choices where I think like LA Fitness and Bailey's or something like that.
Right, just something.
Yeah, two big names. They were that was all that was there. Now, excuse me, in the last 5 years, I mean, and I guess maybe, we'll say probably actually almost 8 years ago, Planet Fitness kind of started popping up. Mm-hmm. And in the last 3 to 5 years, it's been like, I think there's like Crush, and then there's Retro Fitness, and then there's like 24/7 workout. There's, I think, literally about 6 new gyms, just, not gyms, but like brands. Like, there's tons of new gyms in my area because there's all these new brands as well. But like 6 new companies in the last 3 to 5 years. So I would imagine that puts a lot of pressure on each other to differentiate themselves.
Right, and it does, and that's also a good thing for me.
Yeah. So, where do you like? What's like the next big thing that you're working on to, like, like the next big jump? Or let's start from, like, you started off as, customizing existing stuff. Well,
actually, it goes a bit further back than that.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, when I very first started, like, getting into being a machinist and engineer, in my spare time I would make custom chess sets, and that's where the horse symbol comes from, because I sat down and I had designed that, and that was kind of like my signature thing. I made like cool little designer chess boards and stuff, just because I could, and I had the time. And as machines are going and I get bored at work, I'm just making stuff. So that's where it all started. And after a while and getting more into fitness, it kind of morphed into that. And then instead of just coming up with new designs for a simple game, it became coming up with inventions and then obstacles and more and more fitness stuff. Like, it goes from just simply designing obstacles that attach to existing equipment to getting hooked up with an equipment manufacturer, and then like adding that brand to my own and bringing that along with me, and then getting more sponsors for my website and bringing all that along with me, and then going to fitness events and competitions and talking with gym owners and more people as I go along. And now it's starting to morph into the obstacle course community, where these people are putting on these big races where there's thousands of people, and I'm helping them with their obstacle needs. Mm-hmm. So it's gone a long way in a short amount of time.
So when did you start doing the fitness? How long? What's a short amount of time?
When was it? I think this is my 3rd year designing the stuff. That first year was trying to get the Tanasi right, and then like basically laying the foundations for my website, designing all that stuff together. I use Squarespace, and that is like an invaluable tool because if I get a new picture, I can put it up, or if I want to tweak how I worded a description, or add a YouTube video, or add a complete new product line. I mean, I'm always constantly on there and checking how many people have seen it, and just recently it's like been hitting thousands of people a day, and it's come a long way.
Now, is there like is there a market for you to like hit like home gym people?
There has. There last summer is when I was really like hitting the ground running with the salmon ladder thing, and there's a lot of people who have like backyard ninja courses, and
Okay.
the thing about having a backyard ninja course is that when it rains, all your stuff is made out of wood. So the last thing you want to happen is a piece of wood that you screwed on to be a rung for your salmon ladder breaks when you go to do the exercise, and then you fall, because falling sucks, and especially when you are outside, you know, you can hit the ground, and not everybody has crash pads. And the very first time I fell, I didn't have a crash pad, and it sucked. So one of the things that come to me for is the fact that it's basically just pre-built. You just have to put it on to some 4x4 studs that are in the ground, and everybody likes it.
Out of everything I've seen from like the Ninja Warrior stuff, and I don't even like, I've never even equated what Arrow does as Ninja Warrior when he's doing the salmon ladder. That's the only thing I would ever want to try. And I recently watched a video of Stephen Amell, and this was actually probably from a couple of years ago, the video, but Stephen Amell doing showing like some guy on set how to do it. And he makes it look so easy, and the other dude goes to do it, and it falls right to the ground. Because I mean, obviously, there's, you know, one part, like, actually being able to do it, like, having the fitness to do it. But it's got to be more than that. Like, what does it take to do the salmon ladder besides being just, like, God's gift?
Honestly, 80% of it is mental, because I've taken my equipment to, you know, CrossFit gyms all over Indianapolis and stuff, and you're standing there and you're looking at it, and it looks like an impossible task, but the mechanics behind it is just a simple kipping pull-up, and once you reach the top of it, you know, thrust your arms forward to reach the next rung. And, you know, it sounds simple, but it takes a lot of like core, and you have to use your legs, and you have to use your arms, and it's a lot of coordination. Like, you have to coordinate a lot of parts of your body at once, and it makes it a very dynamic exercise. And that's why a lot of CrossFit gyms like to buy my equipment, because of the type of exercise that it is. But then again, at the same time, not everyone is physically able to do that type of movement, because it requires a little bit of fitness prowess, if you will. So
that is one where, I mean, I think the only benefit I would have to that is that I know how to take a fall for my days of wrestling. So when I would fall, because it would happen, I would know, like, I could tuck my chin and just take up as much surface area as possible and be good to go. Hey there, super friends, it's Kev. I'm just going to interrupt this show for a minute or two so I can do some housekeeping. If you want to help support this show, you can do it in several different ways. One of those ways, I'll read your name on air right here, not just your name, but your whole review, by leaving a 5-star review, or any review, really. I'll read all of them. But hopefully you're kind enough to leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Just go to our iTunes page, subscribe to the page, that way you don't miss an episode, and of course leave that 5-star text review. iTunes Math does a lot of good things that make more people listen to the show, and that means more cool things happen to Everything Is Awesome. Another way that you can support is word-of-mouth recommendations. Just tell friends to listen to Everything Is Awesome. Put it on when you're carpooling together on your way to work, or on your way to Comic-Con, or whatever. And the final way, this one may cost you a little bit of money, but that's okay. If you go to patreon.com/thatentertains, the other ways you help support us are just as good, free for nothing, help us. But this one, if you pledge some money to us, we'll give you some more stuff in return. You know, and by we I mean Jason Ashley from Too Cool for Tabletop and I, we like to say $12 a year, bro. $1 a month is really nothing to you. You skip anything for one day, and that's more than $1, and that helps make our dreams come true, really, if I'm going to be honest. That's entertainment, which is what funds this podcast, is running a patreon.com/thatentertains. And I mean, really, honestly, if we could hit $25 a month of support, that would be wonderful. It means bills are covered for us, and that's really all I want at the end of the day. And everything else is just icing on the cake. It means we get to do more upgrades. It means we get to create more content. And a lot of the stuff that we want to do is at least early access for you guys that pledge to us on patreon.com/thatentertains, or we'll even do some exclusive content. We're working on some things now that we're thinking of for exclusive content that we'll do randomly throughout the year and whatnot. So again, if you want to help support this podcast, go to patreon.com/thatentertains. Not just supporting this podcast, but you're supporting That's Entertainment, which means that even more content besides this podcast will come at you. We're talking skits, sketches, web series, movies, a whole ton of content that we have that we want to do that will eventually get done anyway, but with your help, we can get it done sooner. If you don't want to spend any cash, I completely get it. I understand it. iTunes reviews help us tremendously, as well as word of mouth recommendations. Finally, you can also go to the contact page on awesomepodcast.com and subscribe to our newsletter. We're going to start sending out weekly reminders of the things that we've posted throughout the week, as well as spotlights on the guests that we've had on our podcasts. And we're also going to be sending out reminders or notifications about new things that we're working on, events that we're going to be doing, and whatnot. So just another place to get some more detailed information. We're going to try to make it unique enough for you so that it's worth us invading your inbox. This has been more than a minute or two. So let's get back to the conversation. Let's go off topic a little bit. What is it that, because you sound like you're a busy guy, what is it that you do to relax, to take your mind off all your engineering and ninjing?
A lot of times it's just watching TV shows at nighttime with my wife and falling asleep. But I used to be big into video games. I was obsessed with Destiny for the longest time. And, whenever we're out and about, my son and I like to play Pokemon Go. So...
It's funny because that is it was such a huge fad last year or even 6 months ago, and I guess it's still kind of popular. I don't really know. My son he turned 5 in January, so he's a little over 5.
My son is also 5,
and he if he's thinking of it, he enjoys it, and of course I think the last time we played it, we used all the Pokeballs, so every time he asks to play, it's well, there's no Pokeballs, and the closest Pokestop is forever and a day away. So
when I get home from work, he's like, "Daddy, did you catch anything new today?" And I'm like, "Well, son, I didn't even really get a chance to play, and we've caught most of the ones that are around here, so no."
Yeah, it's I remember when it first dropped, and I think it was before I started playing, because I was, even though I'm 32 going on 33, so Pokemon was kind of in my wheelhouse when I was a kid. I played Red and Blue and all that stuff, and I remember driving one night specifically. I was driving to go get dinner, and for whatever reason, I decided to take a different way home. And I go past this church, and I see a couple kids and teenagers sit out front at the corner on their phones. I'm and it's dark out. I'm that's pretty weird. And then I turn down this street that I normally don't have to turn down to. Again, I was just for whatever reason taking a different way. And I look, and the church parking lot is full of cars and teenagers. and I was and I think, I think I had the app downloaded because I was going to start playing it. Because I opened up the app, and I was let me see if this what's going on is what I think is going on. And it was the church was a poker gym. And I was like, oh my god, people are like insane. This is how you get people to go to church? You just have a poker gym here?
Yeah, that's exactly how they do it. I mean, Starbucks, there's a thing where Starbucks now has, like, every Starbucks in the world is either a Pokestop or a gym, and, you know, just people go there more now. I don't know how much money they paid Niantic for that, but I was a fan of Niantic in the previous game, which was called Ingress, and they had always teased that they were going to make a Pokemon version, and that, you know, they finally did it, and I was on board for that.
So what's Ingress? What is that, like, similar to Pokemon Go?
It's basically the same thing, except for well, not really. Well, kind of, but instead of like having Pokemon, you would have like these little spots that you would go to, and every spot you would have to either attack or defend it or build it up, and it was basically like I would describe it as like a mix between Risk and chess.
Okay.
For the whole world, and basically what you do is you take over these spots like you do in Pokemon, but then you would have to link up the spots to other spots and create like triangles, and then your team would get points, and it was just
it's an interesting concept, like that style of game, because it's like and not just, I mean, like more so Pokemon Go now as well, because it's, you know, got the name brand recognition as well. Mm-hmm. But it's, you know, it's in theory a way to get people moving, and, you know, make people not sit around and play video games.
Right.
Kind of like what Nintendo did with the Wii, except, you know, on a much larger scale, I guess.
Right.
But like for me, like, and I don't mind, like, I like Pokemon Go. It's neat. It's fun. I enjoy playing it whenever my son and I get the chance to play it, which is, again, is like, I think him and I have only played it 3 times, together, because he's like, he comes from a world where like he plays video games, but not that often. And I guess that's a great thing. Like, you know, let him, he's more of an outdoor kid, and he'll, you know, so like his video game is like experiences are console, like not really handheld.
Right.
So like, and I get it, because handheld gaming really isn't a thing anymore, because it's all done on your phone. And I think the concept for him is like, when he plays a game on the phone, it's all little, like, just, you know, touch movements here and there, and you don't have to really walk around or do anything. But the games like that I've, like, so I used to be huge into like Final Fantasy and
yep,
basically
so
that's
Final Fantasy X on the PS2, man. That was
see, I'm a Final Fantasy 6 or 3 as it was known in America on Super Nintendo. You know, I mean, I've gone back. I mean, I go back, I should say, like one of the first video games I've played, was probably Final Fantasy. It was probably, I think, an Atari game of some sort was the first game I played, followed by Mario and Duck Hunt, and then Final Fantasy was probably you know, in the top 5 games for regular Nintendo.
When I was a little kid, my dad had an old Atari 2600, so I was Pac-Man, Missile Command, and all that type of stuff first, and then I got a Sega Genesis. I never had a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo, but I had every Sega system until Nintendo 64.
It's funny, because like now it's the real, like, big wars are Xbox and Sony, really. But back in the day, it was Nintendo and Sega, because like me and my friends, we were all Nintendo heads. Like, every now and then, like, I think my one friend, like, he got a Sega, and it was like, what? Or a Sega Genesis, probably, whatever their Super Nintendo version was. And it was like a big deal, because like everyone else was a Nintendo, and like now this kid's got a Sega. But yeah, I was, you know, I was always a Nintendo fan, and the only reason I ever jumped ship to PlayStation 1 from Nintendo, which I guess was like what, in the Nintendo 64 era of when PlayStation 1 came out.
Yeah, that was Nintendo 64. I had a Nintendo 64. I didn't have a PlayStation 1. I got on PlayStation and PlayStation 2 when that came out.
The reason I got a PlayStation, and I eventually got a Nintendo 64 as well, but the only reason I got a PlayStation was because it was the first time that Squaresoft was producing a Final Fantasy game not for Nintendo, and it was Final Fantasy VII, which to this day I have yet to complete. But yeah, I was in Final Fantasy 6/3 as it's known in the States on Super Nintendo. That is my Final Fantasy. That's I think the best story. It's the most compelling game to play. It has an actual satisfying ending, which Final Fantasy is not known for.
Right.
But yeah, them and Madden games and that's kind of what I grew up on, and like side scrolls or whatnot. And now I find myself, when I have time to sit down and play, I have a ton of I have Skyrim from when it first came out. I still have yet to play it because I just don't have time. But I do play. I'm a huge fan of the Telltale games, specifically the Walking Dead ones are pretty good. They're the ones that are it's all it's very story driven. It's, you can quote unquote die, but you come back, right. And it's almost like choose your own adventure. And those, I mean, A, they're just done so well, and B, each episode is maybe 2 hours long, so it's a 2-hour commitment. Technically, I guess 10 if you're playing the whole game at once.
Right.
Versus, I think my buddy told me the last Final Fantasy he played, which was Final Fantasy 13 or 15 or something, was a 90-hour commitment.
Oh, jeez. I got Destiny on PS4 because a buddy of mine had told me about it and how it's a RPG / first-person shooter / magic in space and aliens and robots, and I was like, that's awesome. And then, yeah, I spent a lot of time on that one, and my wife went to go buy me some new games, and I still stuck with Destiny because I only had enough time to play one game. I had whatever that Dragon Ball Z game came out for PS4, and that was sitting there forever. And then I had Call of Duty just sitting there forever, and I just only had time for one video game. So
yeah, it's I love the problems of first world that we all share. It's man, I don't have enough time to play more than one video game. What do I choose? Do I choose this 4K video game console, or do I choose this other 4K video game console? Meanwhile, people have real problems out there.
Exactly.
But it's just the world we're from.
Right. My kids definitely are. They like video games too, and I made the mistake of getting them into Minecraft, and they like to just build random stuff all the time. So yeah. I'll
tell you what, that's something that I have tried on numerous accounts to get into. I remember years ago when I think it was strictly on the PC still, and I don't even know if it was and this is me not knowing Minecraft. I don't know. I think maybe it was online. I don't even know if you downloaded it to your computer. But I've played it in a few different incarnations, and I just can't get into it. I'm what is the point of me? What am I doing? I've had my nephew show me how to play, and he's look at this. Isn't this cool? Isn't this awesome? Look, here's a wolf that I'm beating up. Look, I'm digging a big hole. I'm I guess this is cool. Yeah. I don't.
My kids, all their friends or whatever, getting into Minecraft and stuff, and so my wife and I bought it, and then we sat down and started playing it, and then 4 hours later, it's 2:00 in the morning, and it's is the castle finished yet, honey? And then, no, I still got another level to build. And meanwhile, I'm building a railroad system that goes around the entire planet and figuring out how to, basically blow up half of the thing with dynamite and just doing all sorts of cool stuff.
Well, I guess as an engineer, like that's actually got to be a pretty fascinating game
Yeah,
because
it's basically like virtual Legos, and
yeah,
my kids
yeah.
love Legos. I loved Legos as a child, and they have too many now. And
Oh my god, it is nuts how many Legos like are out there, and more importantly, like how expensive they are now.
God damn it, they always seem to get me with that. Like anything new comes out, they have a Lego set for it. Lego Batman, Lego Minecraft.
Yeah,
Lego Minecraft is such bullshit. Oh, sorry, am I allowed to swear?
yeah, of course. This is the
Yeah.
internet.
So, Lego Minecraft is such bullshit because they're basically selling you the standard Lego blocks, no special pieces. The characters look weird, and you pay $40 because your kid wants Lego Minecraft. And it's like, hang on a second. I would rather have spent the $40 on Lego Batman because that movie just came out, but he doesn't want
Yeah.
Batman with Clayface, which it look really cool to have. But
Yeah.
he wants the Lego Minecraft, which if we bought the standard Lego pieces, we can build half the stuff that is already on there and just do it that way. But they want the specific things. I mean, we went to the Lego. They have a brick world here in Indianapolis,
Okay.
and we went to that and we picked up a few characters for pretty cheap, so I didn't have to go out and buy the $100 set. You know.
Well, I remember recently, like within the last year or two, looking at the Millennium Falcon, and it being like over $100, and I was like, wait a second. First of all, the Millennium Falcon has been around for years.
Yes.
Like they definitely had this, like, I'll say when I was an adult, so up to 10, 15 years ago, and it was definitely only $40 then. The fact that in like half my lifespan this is more than doubled in price is insane.
And not only that, but I'm like a huge Star Wars nerd, and I would, if I had 300 or so dollars laying around for no reason that I wouldn't miss, I would probably have bought a Star Destroyer Lego set and put that together with my kids, or even the Death Star, and done that. But I mean, you're right. It is outrageous how much they charge, and we just fork it over.
So, what do you think of the last two Star Wars films we've just we had 7 and Rogue One?
Episode 7 was complete garbage. Kylo Ren.
Oh,
Kylo Ren, I hated so much, and just, I mean, it's basically the epitome of like privilege, and he's a whiny little kid, and I think.
well, he's the Skywalker. At the end of the day, he's got Skywalker blood in him.
They shouldn't have started a new thing with, okay, well, we're gonna have Death Star number 3 that the energy of a star. I mean, they could have done that with like a Skyforge or like the World Devastators. I mean, they could have easily made a trilogy from the Thrawn trilogy and just did that and been okay with it. I mean, there's so much source material out there from the expanded universe. I mean, you could have just picked one of them. You could have been like, hey, we're going to pick this one and we're going to make it and people will pay us money for it. Now, when they dropped the last Star Wars movie, Rogue One, I mean,
Yeah.
I went in there expecting to see another Episode 7. I love Star Wars, so they can have my money any time of the day. And I was completely blown away. I mean, that everyone dies in the end is awesome.
Yeah.
I can't believe that they brought Tarkin back to life. And
Yeah.
then in the end, when Darth Vader was just completely wrecking those rebel soldiers.
Yeah.
I mean, that I've always wanted to see that in cinema.
Yeah, totally.
Just always.
Yeah, I'll start with Rogue One. I agree. I loved how Rogue One ended. I thought Rogue One was it was great. It was, and I think I went in not with low expectations because I enjoyed Episode 7. But I'm not like an expanded universe guy. Like I know of it. I've read some stuff in it, but my level of Star Wars fandom is pretty much just the cinematic stuff.
Right.
And but with Rogue One, I think I went in saying I'm excited to see this. It's going to be interesting to see how they turn that crawl into a 2-hour movie. Let's see what they do here.
Right.
And I agree. I love the bleak ending. I think it was very Empire in that way. Like, it reminded me of Empire Strikes Back with the way it ended.
And the fact that we have, like, it's like a war movie. It
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
live up to Star Wars. It's a war. These guys are
Yeah.
fighting. People are getting shot. Stormtroopers don't miss. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
awesome.
And it's the first movie. Like, I've always liked the droids. Like, oh yes, 3PO and R2D2 and BB-8. Like, they're all, yeah, they're droids. They're cool because they're droids, but they're just little like side characters. This is the first movie that made me care for a droid. Like, I think K2 is my favorite character from that movie.
Yep.
And like, it's incredibly heartbreaking to see him die for the cause. Like, I think he had, like I said, I think he was, like, for me, the hands down the best character, favorite character, and like one of the hardest, like, quote unquote deaths to take from that film.
That's right, but he took it like a champ.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the other character that I liked a lot was Donnie Yen's character, because I'm a huge fan of martial art movies and stuff, and seeing him like talking about the Force in the trailer, I was waiting for him to brandish a double-sided green lightsaber and start messing people up, but that didn't happen. But that was fine. That it didn't happen.
Yeah, I'm impressed that it was like very low on the Jedi stuff, and it was still very good. Like, it felt like a Star Wars movie, and it was, I think where I rank it is like, it's a top 5. Like, it's a top 5 movie.
Yeah.
In that universe. And Force Awakens, but I see the Force Awakens, when I didn't know how much I loved Star Wars until that trailer came out, that first trailer. And specifically, because that first trailer, the only thing that they showed of the old school Star Wars was the Millennium Falcon flying through the air, and suddenly it's like new, cuts to black, cuts the classic John Williams score, and you see the Falcon flying through the air, and I got literal goosebumps when that happened in the trailer, and I was like, oh my god, I'm like a Star Wars fan. Like, I love Star Wars. Obviously not as much as, like, I'm not a diehard fan. Like, you sound like you're a diehard fan that like loves the expanded universe and stuff.
I've been into Star Wars since I was a little kid, watching it on VHS.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there with you, except I never got into like a little bit into the expanded stuff. And I'll tell you what, one of the last things we'll touch on here is the things that I've come to love about Star Wars now, like, aside from the cinematic universe, is like the role-playing games that they have for it. Now, I haven't played one myself, but I listened to this awesome podcast called Campaign. And essentially what it is it's Rogue One, but like 10 years earlier. And it's these group of Chicago improvers who play this Star Wars Edge of the Empire role-playing game. And they're telling the story of this group of misfits that stole the plans to the murder ball, as they call it, which is the Death Star. It's such a funny, like, it's literally a podcast I listen to and cry laughing at almost every single episode. If as a Star Wars fan, you should definitely check out Campaign.
I will definitely check that out, because I listen to a lot of podcasts while I'm doing my normal 9 to 5, and I'm always looking for interesting stuff. Like, I listen to Joe Rogan religiously, and Joey Diaz, and always giggling to myself, thinking I'm weirder.
If you're see, I don't even think you have to like be a D&D fan to enjoy Campaign, because it's it does have like the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, but for the most part, it's just like it's a fun story that they're telling. And they're like, I mean, they're 80 some episodes into it, so you can like binge it while you're at work and catch up. I think you'll enjoy it. You should definitely check it out. All right, Brian, before I let you go, I'm going to have you officially give out your plugs so that people know where to find you, people know where to buy some awesome ninja equipment like the salmon ladder.
Right. Well, my website is www.customdesigncrafts.com. I can be found at Custom Design Crafts on Instagram and Facebook, and my Twitter handle is Everyday Ninjas. I'm doing I got a blog on my website for fitness related topics, and I have all sorts of cool sponsors on there. And if you click on any of the links and like sign up for a Spartan race or whatever, it helps me out. I also have links to Amazon and other type of cool stuff. So any help is much appreciated, because I got some really cool projects that I'm working on.
Well, there you go. And my audience knows that supporting the little guy helps. And Amazon links are a great way to do it, because like it costs you no more money. You pay the same amount, and Amazon kicks Brian some money back. So that's the great thing about those affiliate links. Mm-hmm. Brian, thank you for doing the show.
Hey man, thanks for having me.
All right. For Everything is Awesome, I'm Kev. I think I normally have a longer spiel for the end of the show, but I just my throat hurts. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. So you can that's right, my plugs. How silly of me. You can find this show on Twitter at RealAwesomePod. You can find me on Twitter at ThatNerdyKev. And you can find us on all the different podcatchers. If you want to support this show, you can do it in a few different ways. Tell a friend. Word of mouth, recommendations help us tremendously. 5-star iTunes reviews, those stars add up to some sort of weird iTunes math, and it makes us more featured on their page or something. I don't know how it works. It's iTunes magic. But do it. 5-star reviews. No sweat off your back. If you want to support us with a little bit of money, go to patreon.com/thatentertains. We have a lot of cool things that we're trying to do here with our Everything is Awesome brand and our That's Entertainment brand. And with your support, we can do it. For Everything is Awesome, I'm Kev. We'll see you next time right here on awesomepodcast.com. We've been awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Court and Parts Podcast Network. To listen to more Court and Parts shows, visit courtandarts.com.